Hi everyone, we are going to see the exercises from the second exercise to the seventh of the chapter 2, Thinking Like an Economist of Gregory Mankiw, the book Principles of Economics. So the second question says, one common assumption in economics is that the products of different firms in the same industry are indistinguishable. For each of the following industries, discuss whether this is a reasonable assumption. So the first one is steel. So we can consider it as indistinguishable because it's almost a commodity. Commodity means like something that is just like a raw, so it's not like too many processes inside it. So then the product offered by different companies could be assumed as equal. Okay, even there are different ways, but the pure steel we can consider as indistinguishable. Okay, so the novels. In this case, it's kind of hard because there are several authors and all the writers have different styles to write. It's completely a different good when you read one novel from Mario Vargas Llosa or when you read another one or for like Paulo Coelho. But you like different style, different topics, so it's so hard to say one novel to another. So then in this case almost impossible to think it equal good. Okay, so seaweed again, it is like commodity, so we can talk about similar goods usually when the good don't have too much process. So again we can think about, I want to try to pronounce this word, for me it's impossible, indistinguishable. Okay, and the last one, fast food. So it's reasonable to think as indistinguishable good because when we are talking about buying a hamburger, in general we can say that we are buying or we are eating the same good from different products producers, so we can say it is like indistinguishable good. Okay, the third, draw a circular flow diagram. Identify the parts of the model that correspond to the flow of goods and services and the flow of dollars for each of the following activities. So the first activity is Sam pays a storekeeper $1 for a quart of milk. So first we have to go to households where belong Sam. In this case, we are saying that they buy a consumer good and services. He is buying a quart of milk. So in this case, this is the flow of dollars, which is the outer loop. Okay, so Sam spends $1, but he goes to the market, so we can say that this storekeeper is inside the markets for goods and services where the households buy and the firms sell. In change of this $1 he receives a quart of milk, but in the other side there are the firms where they produce and sell goods and services. So he or the firm provides the quart of milk. Instead, it receives revenue, which is the $1 income. Okay, the second the second activity is Sally earns 4.50 per hour working at a fast food restaurant. So we assume that there is just a amount to take in account 1 hour of work. So how is going to be 1 hour of work? So there is the other side, which is the markets for factor of production. Remember that the factor of production, they are land, capital, and labor. So we go here and we have here that the firms, they hire and use factor of production, but the firm has to pay the salary of Sally, which is going to be in the flow of dollars. Instead of this payment, the firm receives labor. And if we go, this $4.50 it goes to the household in the same the flow of money, which is the outer loop. So Sally earns 4.50, and in return she has to offer the labor. So it's the labor of Sally. The third operation is Serena spends $7 to see a movie. So it's going to be kind of similar like the milk, just with the particular difference that we're not talking about good, but we're talking about service. So in this case, Serena in the outer loop is going to be Serena spends $7 to see a movie, and instead she receives the service of the movie. And what about the firm? The firm, they have to produce and sell goods and services. The service is cinema, so it will be provide the movie. Instead, they receive $7 income. The last one is Stuart earns $10,000 from his 10% ownership of Acme Industrial. So in this case, we are talking about the market for factory production. It's not going to be land, neither a labor, but it's going to be capital. So it's going to be the capital of a Stuart that the firms receive. Okay, but instead of this capital, they have to pay this capital. So the capital, this is the price, is the $10,000, which correspond to the 10% ownership of Acme Industrial. So Acme Industrial, they have to pay $10,000. So it's going to be in the outer loop, which represents the dollar flow. So here we have the capital of a Stuart that they provide throughout the market for fact production. If you see almost this is like this, right? So for example, Sam received water milk, they provide milk. The service of the movie, they provide the movie. So they provide a capital, they receive the capital. They provide labor and they receive the labor. It's like almost the same this fourth. Okay, and so like as I said before, this blue arrow it means the flow dollars, and the green arrow it means the flow of goods and services. And in this case, they receive like uh, in the income, the because of the ownership of Acme Industrial, Stuart received this part. So this is basically the point. Fourth, imagine a society that produces military goods and consumer goods, which will call guns and butter. A. Draw a production possibilities frontier for guns and butter. Explain why it most likely has a bought out shape. So first we have to noun or label the axis. We have guns in the x-axis, and we have butter in the other side. So we have this the bought out. And why is the bought out? Because it's given by the nature of resources. What does it mean? This means because of the opportunity cost. When we approximate to the maximum number of guns, so all our factors they are devoted in the guns. Once I have to sacrifice a little bit more of guns, is going to be a great change of butter. What does it mean? For example, I'm here and I need to pass from here to this point. So I need to sacrifice just a little bit guns for having too much change in butter. So in this case, the slope is kind of infinite in the point in the x axis. On the other side, when we are here, the slope is kind of flat. So when I have to sacrifice, a little bit more of gas when I just need a little bit of butter. So I can say that in this part, the opportunity cost of gas instead of butter, in this case, is too high. So too just like few guns for having in this case the butter is the cost opportunity so high because I need to sacrifice too many butters for having just one gun. And in this is the opposite way. I need to sacrifice too much guns for having a little bit of butter. So it depends on how much of each good the economy is producing. So this is why it's like bought out shape. The second point, show a point that is impossible for the economy to achieve. Show a point that is feasible but inefficient. So for example, we have the same, and we have these 2 points, the G point which is impossible to achieve, and the B point which is feasible but inefficient. So this one is the B point. We know here that all these set is like they the economy, they can be inside here, but they are not using all the factors of production, so this is considered a feasible, so you can reach, but is inefficient. On the other side we have the D, which is impossible to achieve. I have more goods of butter, more produces more like goods produced, um, butter and guns, but this is the frontier, this is the possibility frontier of production, so we cannot reach that. C point is, imagine that the society has two political parties called the Hawks, who want a strong military, and the Doves, who want smaller military. Show a point on your production possibilities frontier that the Hawks and a point that appointed Doves might choose. So again, we have the same guns and butter, and D I'm going to label as the Dove's choice and the Hawk's choice. So here is the D choice. Why? Because remember that the Doves, they want a smaller military, so they have smaller production of guns than the Hawks production in guns. Okay, so they are here where they produce much more butter. What about the H? It's going to be the Hawks choice. They have more production of guns instead of less production of butter. This is the trade-off. They have more guns, less butter. On the other side, they have more butter, the less guns. Okay. The says, imagine that an aggressive neighboring country reduces the size of its military. As a result, both the Hawks and the Doves reduce their desired production of guns by the same amount. Which party would get the bigger peace dividend measured by the increase in butter production? Explain. So for again we have here, this is the bought out shaped. So we have the choice, the H choice here. Okay, we know this is the D and we H. Devoted that the other country, they have reduced the size of its military. Some like both parties, they are going to reduce the gains desired or the gains produced in the economy. So first we have here the DOS product choice. Imagine that this is the change. You are going to reduce this in this proportion the gains. If you see, there is a little increase in butter. It means that the opportunity cost of gains is so high in order to have just a little bit of butter. So we are going to call this space or this gap as the peace dividend. In the other side, wait, this is D prime. In the other side is the H. They're going to produce the same part of GANs, but they're going to have a big increase in butter. This is the H prime. So you see, this is the peace dividend, and the peace dividend is higher in Hogg's choice. Why? Because of the opportunity cost. In this time, the opportunity cost of guns is small compared with butter. But in this case, the opportunity cost of guns is so high for a little bit of butter. So it means that this slope I can interpret as the opportunity cost. In this case, when the slope is higher, the opportunity cost expressed in guns is less. And in this case, with the slope is like kind of flat, kind of zero, we can interpret that the guns the opportunity cost is so high. Okay, so the party that would get a bigger price dividends, the whole party. This is given by the slope at this point, as I said before. Okay, the fifth point, the first principle of economics discussed in chapter 1 is that people face trade-offs. Use a production possibilities frontier to illustrate a society's trade-off between a clean environment and high incomes. What do you suppose determines the shape and position of the frontier? Show what happens to the frontier if engineers develop an automobile engine with almost no emissions. So we have here, instead of butter against and against, we have high incomes and clear environment. So this is both out usual possibilities frontier of production. So the position will determine which the society decide. The shape is given by the cause of opportunity between these two aspects. So we can see here the trade-off. What does it mean? If I want more like higher incomes, I need to sacrifice a less clear environment. In the opposite side, if I want more clear environment, I need to sacrifice high incomes. So this is the theme and position of the frontier. A position over here close to high incomes, it means that we are not paying attention to the clear environment. And the other side, the clear environment here, it would be that we are not taking too much into account the high incomes. So what about if there is like in this case develop an automobile engine which almost no emission? So the clear environment is going to increase, so it's going to be like this. So at the end, if we were in a point, which means this quantity of income, we are going to maintain, we are going to keep this level of income, but in the same at the same time we will increase the level of clear environment. This is given because the invention of this automobile engine. Okay, next, the sixth point, classify the following topics and relating to microeconomics or macroeconomics. So the first, the family's decision about how much income to save. Each time we talk about family decision, we are talking about micro. Okay, just a household is like part of the interest of the micro field, how they interact with the society, and one way to interact with the society is the income that they decide to save. The second, the effect of government regulation on auto emissions. So when we are talking about the government and the impact in government, we are we are talking much more about macroeconomics. So just government is like a bigger level, so we are talking about macro. The impact or higher national saving economic growth. Each time we are talking about economic growth, we are talking more about the countries. So this is more about macroeconomics. Economic growth is important part of the macroeconomics interest. A firm's decision about how many workers to hire. Even if there is like a big company which has a big impact maybe in the country, when we are talking about firms we are talking more about microeconomics. Okay, this is, remember that we have the circle flow, we have the households and firms. This is more analysis in microeconomics. The relationship between the inflation rate and changes in the quantity of money. So we are talking more about macro. Again, macro, one of the interests, one part it could be the inflation rate and the quantity of money in the economy. So classify each of the following statements as positive or normative. Explain. So the first, society faces a short-run trade-off between inflation and employment. So it's a positive. Remember, positive is a descriptive. It's more a fact. It's something that there is no like some value or some like subjective position from the people that or from the person who says this statement. In this case, remember that we talk about the 10 principle about the Phillips curve. The Phillips curve is a trade-off between inflation and employment. It's a fact, it's a collection of data. Once you have a high inflation, you will face low unemployment in the short run, and it could be the opposite if we think about low inflation and high unemployment. This is a fact, so we can talk a positive statement. The next one is a reduction in the rate of growth of money will reduce the rate of inflation. It's positive, so it's one of the principles of economics again. The inflation is given. Remember, the inflation is the increase generalized of all prices in the economy. So once we have more money, we we're going to spend more, and the prices will go up. So it will be a positive statement. Of the Federal Reserve should reduce the rate of growth of money. This is normative. Once when we pass the border of science, which is a fact, which is with the information came or come by data, and we are talking more about should, might, what the organization they can do. So in this case, someone is proposing to the Federal Reserve that they have to reduce the rate of growth of money. This is normative, okay? This is like an advice, always it's gonna be normative. It's a prescriptive value. Society ought to require welfare recipients to look for jobs. So it's going to be normative again. So it's ought to is more about subjective position. Okay, and this is normative. Lower tax rates encourage more work and more saving. This is positive. Data says that when we have a lower tax rates, we have more available income, so we can encourage more work and more saving. This is a positive argument, okay, and it's a data and it is a fact. So we finished the first from the second to the seventh exercises of chapter 2. So I hope it like was okay for you. You have learned a little bit, and it would be a help for you. So see you the next video, and success with the economics. See you.